Welcome to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. Each episode will tear down a myth, kick a social norm in the beanbag, gut punch a sex ed untruth, or destroy a poorly constructed relationship expectation. Get ready to unlearn all the crap you accepted as fact. Strap in for a mind-blowing revision on what sex is and what it can do. Prepare yourself for a whole new thought pattern when it comes to modern relationships. And now, here's your host, Jenny Simus, the Intimacy Ally, relationship expert and certified sex and intimacy coach.
Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. It's me, Jenny Simus Latey, your Intimacy Ally, and I am joined today by Julia Satterlee. She is a clinical sexologist, and she is the owner of PleasureWise Wellness. Julia, hello. Welcome to Storytime, and I just want to start off by thanking you for coming on and ask you, how did you get started in this world?
Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. I love story time. I love the name of it. I love the idea of it. That's such a huge part of how our lives work, right? Things are so wrapped up in stories. So thanks again. I'm really excited to be here.
Yay!
I got started. There's so many different ways I got started in this, right? I feel like so many pieces of the puzzle played into becoming a clinical sexologist and being where I am today. But I think, story and just being involved in people's lives was probably that first step in this process. I often talk
Okay.
about how I started as a sex educator, but even before that, there were some
Mhm.
other things along the way that really brought me to even being a sex educator. So
Okay. Well, let's talk about those. What were those things that led you into sex education?
yeah. So before I even got into sex education, I was really interested in kind of youth activism and doing things in the community. And I was involved in some different youth led community efforts. And I also was reading all the time. And I loved and love to read. And reading really taught me a lot of interesting stuff. And I really started to question things about society's rules and
Mhm.
rules around like how women were supposed to act and how men were supposed to act and things like that, right?
Mhm.
And I saw how, for example, before I even was sexually active, right, I got called all kinds of like sexual names and stuff like that
Mm.
just
Mhm.
because people decided, right, that they wanted to talk about people like that. And I saw other people getting called names and I was kind of like, oh, I don't
Mhm.
like that. So that was a part of it that I think contributed. I very early on questioned like, this system isn't really working for me. Like,
Right?
I don't see this helping anybody. This doesn't really feel good for anybody. Um and I think on top of that, I was a person, I think because I had that attitude, lots of
Mhm.
people talked to me about their stuff, right? About
Okay.
kind of like
Yep.
into things and their questions. And I was, this was before the internet. So it wasn't like I could just Google things. It
You're
was
like, I just need to
like,
figure this out. I need
it
to
was like
read.
people would be like, "Oh, I have this problem. Like, where can I go for this? And
Mhm.
what do I do about this?" And I was really curious, and I wanted to find answers for people.
Mhm.
And I listened. I remember I listened to Love Line on the radio. That was like one of my sources of information.
Hell yeah. Hell
Um,
yeah. Mhm. A little Dr. Drew. Mhm. Mhm.
Totally, totally. All kinds of, sources like that. I found books at the library. I was looking through stuff at the bookstore and
Mhm.
I was
I
just
read a lot of interviews or like watched a lot of interviews with porn stars because I
oh,
found they were the most open and honest about things. I
mhm.
remember Jenna Jameson being the one who stuck out in my mind as saying spit is always better than lube. And I was like, "Whoa, girl, that's like mind blowing. Oh shit. Okay." Yeah. So I feel you. So you're doing all of this research and you were just like helping people who were like friends of yours or yeah.
Friends of mine. That's definitely how it started out. But over
Mm-hmm.
time, I think I don't know what it is in my energy, but like people talk to me at the grocery
I
store, like,
fucking know. We're all like that. Like, okay, I wish that I could like call my husband right now, but you know, he's in the shop. He's a mechanic. Like, he won't hear it. But I wish I could call him right now and be like, baby, don't all these people just randomly talk to me? And you're like, do you know him? And I'm like, no, no. Like bartenders,
nope,
when we
I
sit down to eat
know
lunch,
relationship now.
before I know it, they're like, could you look at this thing on me? Because I'm not really sure. And I'm like, I'm not a fucking doctor, but also I just met you, Chris. What the hell is happening?
I
Yes,
love it
I
though,
feel you.
honestly. Like, I think
I
it's
know.
so cool. It's such an honor that people
Mhm,
are open to talking to me about their stuff, right?
mhm,
So there was like that, all that going on in the background.
mhm.
And then I saw this opportunity in the newspaper because, again, that's how old I am. Um,
Stop it.
there was like an ad in the newspaper for teens that wanted to learn and teach about sexual health. And I was
Mhm,
like, oh, yes, yes. Where do I sign up? I'm on
mhm.
it. So as a teenager, I got a job as a peer educator at Planned Parenthood. And that
Oh,
was
wow.
an
I didn't
amazing.
know that was when you were a teenager. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I started out as a teen there. Um,
Mhm,
and it was fantastic because I got to geek out and learn so many facts and so many facets of like what goes into sexual health, and not just sexual health. One of the things that
mm.
stood out to me the most, that I think was most impactful for me, was learning about the circles of sexuality. I don't know if this was in any of your studies, but it's this really old school thing that I think is from maybe the curriculum for Unitarian churches. I feel.
Oh, okay. So like the owl training, like
Yeah,
our whole
yeah.
lives. I love the idea of that, by the way. We're going to have to get into that a different day. I have somebody
Cool.
who just went through that training, so I'm so excited. I
I've
want to ask
been
her
through
on.
one of those
Yeah.
trainings also, but I
Yeah.
never ended up teaching for them or anything, but I have
Right.
been through one of the trainings.
Okay.
Um, I've been through so much sex ed stuff. This is like my life is very sexology centered. But anyway,
Right.
that was one of the things that was most impactful for me, because I remember just seeing there's 5 different circles in the circles of sexuality. It's just a concept of like, this is what sexuality is really about.
Okay.
All of these different facets. And the 5 circles, like the outside labels, are sensuality,
Mhm.
intimacy, like emotional intimacy,
Mhm.
identity, your sexual identity, right? Your gender identity, your gender roles, your sexual identity, your orientation, like all of those things are within that circle of identity.
Mm.
And then
Okay.
sexual health stuff, right? All the stuff that is normally what we think of when we think of like sex ed, right?
Right.
Illnesses or
Mhm.
diseases and
Disease
pregnancy,
and pregnancy.
right?
Yes.
Anatomy and physiology, like the birds
Yes.
and the bees.
Not even proper anatomy, but yes. Yes.
Exactly, exactly. But that, like, I like looking like, "Oh, that's only this one little piece of the puzzle down here, this
Yeah.
stuff about sexual health in this way." And then the
Mhm.
5th circle was actually power, right?
Ooh.
And that I was like, "Oh, oh, interesting." And power in both positive and negative facets, right? Because
Mhm.
that's where, like, sexual assault falls into,
Mhm.
like, that's a thing that happens that's within the realm of sexuality to an extent, right? And it
Right.
affects how we are sexually. Um,
So,
so
like, power in that way, but, like, also power dynamics,
yeah, like
but,
power
like,
play,
also
power development,
empowerment. Yeah.
empowerment, exactly, feeling
Hit.
a sense of
That is
agency in your body, like, all of that stuff. And I was like,
wow.
"Oh, oh," my mind was blown, right? Like,
Right.
"Oh, this helps me make so much sense of, like, these concepts that I couldn't name before," right?
Right.
Having names
Vocabulary is
for.
power, right?
Right, right. Exactly, exactly.
Shit. Okay. Alright. So this was still when you were at Planned
I was, like,
Parenthood.
16, right? Yeah.
Oh, shit. So your mind's been open for a while. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Alright.
saying, like, this is what I was meant to do. This is what I've wanted to do since I was, like, 15, 16.
Right. Okay.
And
You
so
knew
I
early.
got
That's
really excited,
fantastic.
really passionate. I created a zine when I was 18 that I
No, wait, I think you told me about that.
yeah. Yeah.
Tell the listeners, please.
So because I was so excited and so passionate and I just wanted to share all of this info with
Mhm.
the world about how cool sex and sexuality really was, I created a little zine. It
Mhm.
was called Naked. Because
Is it NEKKID?
it
Fuck
was.
yes, it is. Oh my god. Amazing. All right, keep going.
But the idea is it was the naked truth sort of thing, exposing some different ideas about sexuality so people could feel more open about it and more empowered about it, right?
Mhm.
I really believed, I think I wish I have one in my drawer somewhere, but I had this whole intro about how education plus communication was better sex lives and better
Mm,
lives in general,
that's
right?
the formula. Mm,
Exactly, my
yeah.
formula, age 18, Julia, I got this, we just gotta get this info out there, gotta talk about it, right? I was so passionate, um,
Mhm.
even back then.
Yeah.
And so I went to Kinko's, made all these copies and handed them out to people, again, this is how old I am, y'all. Um,
In case you're not watching this, like, if you're just listening to it, she does not look however old she keeps saying she is. So, we're just gonna keep telling her, "Ah, shut up." Yeah.
oh, no, I'm not upset, I'm, really stoked to be getting older in life,
Okay. All right.
I'm 40, so I'm
Mhm.
still really young on the spectrum of life, um,
Right.
but I'm very much not a baby, and
That's
I'm
all
not
right.
in my 20s, and I'm not trying to be in my 20s, I'm
Right. There's
so
cool shit that
wiser.
comes along with that. There's a lot of cool
Absolutely,
shit that comes along with that.
totally. No, I'm stoked to be 40. Not sad at all, not embarrassed about it, not scared of
Good.
being.
Yeah. And keep making out in public. Make it weird.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So you're doing all of this. You made the naked zine, and you're still at the same job, or are you
No,
starting to
no.
branch out for yourself?
Right. After I kind of finished high school, I was starting to do some other things. I did a lot of traveling, and I also then worked with my more head boss at Planned Parenthood,
Hmm.
left there, and she started her own thing. She got some grant money to work with middle schoolers around sexual health stuff and prevention. And so I worked with
Nice.
her for a while because she was amazing. She was one of my mentors. Mad love for her. She was like a bonus mom
Right.
so many ways, and I did that. I also in college I worked with an organization in my hometown that was working with Latina women
Hmm.
to do kind of um, peer education in communities as
Hmm.
well. So I did that work for a while, and I also at the same time when I was in college, I also this is not related to sexology, but it is part of my huge background around education and adult education and peer education and empowerment. I
Okay.
taught English for a long time to adult immigrants and refugees, and
What?
I think is one of my I love education. I
That's so
love communication.
cool.
And so that's why
Yeah.
it's not exactly my sexology stuff, but it's another really
But
important
it
part
helped
of
make you who you are. It helped get you where
Mhm.
you are today. I understand that.
Yeah,
Whoosh.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
all kinds of fun stuff. In college, that was where I had some really great mentors in college too. I majored in sociology and Spanish. And I had a sociology professor who was really instrumental in helping me pursue sexology as well. She
Mhm.
helped me get funding to go to a conference in San Francisco of sexologists. I met Annie Sprinkle. I was in
Okay.
I went to my first BDSM club in San Francisco. I was like,
Nice.
wow.
Wait. Now where were you when all of this was happening? Where'd you grow up?
I
Like,
grew up in Louisville, Kentucky.
oh shit. Okay. I've
Mhm.
been there for a funeral. Okay. All right. Sorry.
Bad timing, but it's a
Right?
wonderful city, actually. It's a really cool place.
Okay. So you went to Louisville, or sorry, you were in Louisville. That's where you grew up.
Mhm.
And where are you now?
I live in Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah. Okay.
I
I
came
love
to
Savannah.
Savannah via
Mm.
the south of Mexico. So many plot twists.
Okay. All right. All right. So, are you still in Kentucky at this point? Are you in Georgia yet?
Yeah,
What's happening?
in college, I'm still in Louisville, Kentucky, and
Okay.
I visited San Francisco. It was
Mhm.
amazing. I got to, be in a room with all of these professional sexologists, and I was like, "Oh, I really can do this for my
Okay.
like," because I knew like that's what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? But like I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is a thing. Like I can do this when I grow up."
Mhm. Fuck yeah.
But meanwhile, like I had a bunch of plot twists after college and had 2 kids. I moved to Mexico and right,
Okay.
things
Yeah,
happen.
as one does, Yeah, of
Exactly, exactly.
course.
Um, but when I moved back from Mexico, which was about 6 years ago, almost to the day,
Mhm.
I moved to Savannah from Mexico, and I was like, "Okay, now I'm a grown up." No, I'd been teaching meanwhile while I was in Mexico, but,
Mhm.
when I moved back, I was like, "Okay, I need to get back in touch with my real passion in life, my, like, true mission in life," which is the same as it was when I was 16, which is, like, education plus communication, like, better sex lives, y'all. Let's get this out of the taboo arena. This does not
Mhm.
live there. Like, we
Mm-mm.
all deserve this info. We all deserve to feel good in our bodies, and, like, so I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, what am I gonna do? How do I get there with my career at this point?" Like, I've been kind of out of it and teaching other things for so long.
Mhm.
I've been out of the US for about 6 years.
Okay.
And so I was like, "Oh, but the internet, right? Google's a thing now." So I started Googling and I found Sex Coach U.
Okay.
And I was like,
Now let people
"Oh,
know, what is Sex Coach U?
oh."
Who started it?
Yes.
Just go ahead.
So cool. Such a cool story. And this is what I didn't know at the time. At the time, I was just kind of like, what can you do as a sexologist type of thing? Like, oh, how do you? And so I learned about sex coaching from looking at info about sex coaching, which I'll go into the mother of sex coaching in just a second. But sex coaching is the fusion of life coaching as a modality with sexology, right?
Mhm.
As like knowledge base, right? Sexology, what we do sexually and how we think and feel about it, essentially.
Mhm.
And then life coaching, right? Being instead of psychology, instead of therapy, life coaching as a modality, being let me preface this with that sex therapy is awesome
Right?
also, right? Like, I never want it to sound like I'm, like, talking bad about sex therapy. Sex therapy is
Yeah.
really important. We use a lot of the same techniques some of the time, right? Like, sex therapy is
Mhm.
awesome. But coaching does tend to be less focused on having to diagnose anybody. There's
Mhm.
no diagnosing, period.
Right.
We're not psychotherapists. We're not practicing therapy. So it's much more kinda like, "This is what's going on. This is where I wanna get to. How do I get there?" Right? What do I
Yeah.
need
I
to
think it's, like, very goal-oriented
very goal
versus, like, "What's wrong with me?" oriented.
right. Why
Um,
isn't really the question. It's a how question.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good way to explain it.
And so I, like, was started reading about this, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds exactly what I wanna do." Because I loved sex education, but I had always wanted to go deeper than just kind of education format. I love workshops. I love group work. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about it. I'm about to launch a digital course.
Right?
Like, I love team, love it. But
Mhm.
I knew that I really wanted to go deeper with people and more into the pleasure and empowerment part of things rather
Mhm.
than, so much of sex education because of funding is focused on like prevention and just the physical health stuff. And that's great. And that's a little piece of the puzzle, right? Like that's a little slice of the pie. That's not
Right.
everything. And so I started reading about this and I was like, yes, 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 this is what I want to do. Sex coaching was founded by Dr. Patty Britton. She is the mother of sex coaching. She has kind of a similar background. She also got started in like sexual health education.
Yeah.
Really.
Her story is like, it's so intricate and sad. Like there's a lot of sadness in there. But, one day I hope to interview her. So I'm not going to ruin that yet.
Yeah, she's fantastic. You should definitely reach out to her.
Hmm.
Um, But so I actually interviewed with Dr. Patty. So I found out all this info when I was like, this sounds like the right path for me. I set up an interview and I got into their certification program, which is like quite rigorous. It's a whole lot of hours of study. It involves a live sexual attitude reassessment, a SAR. There's
Hmm.
practicum that you go through to make sure you're ready to work with clients. Like it's quite
Hmm.
a rigorous and somewhat long process, but I was so motivated. I flew through it in like 9 months. And
Nice. You beat me. I thought I was big shit because I did it in 13. All right. Not at Sex Coach U. I went to Shaw. But still, like it's basically like a master's program. Like that's what I would compare it to is like people going through, doing their master's level education. Because a lot of what they're doing is the same thing that they would put on you for getting somebody to be a sex therapist who is ASECT certified. Like you don't have to do the supervision, but you're learning a lot of the same things.
right, a bunch of my hours would have qualified towards ASEC certification. Exactly.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah. One day we coaches we'll get in there, right? So, okay. So, you did Sex Coach U. You went through the training in 9 months, record.
Actually, someone did it before me in 6 months.
Whoa. Okay. They didn't sleep. That's
No,
what happened there.
I know.
Okay. And then what was next? Like, where did you go from there? Were you still in
So,
Mexico also?
no, at
Okay.
this point, I just moved back from Mexico
Okay.
and was like, I was really in culture shock at the time too. I was like, "Whoo." I lived a very different lifestyle in Mexico, and so it was like it was a huge transition for me
Yeah.
and my 2 kids.
Right.
It
I bet.
was a
I
lot
bet.
at once. So it was actually, like, really nice to dive into this study because I'm a geek too at the end of the day. Like, I love reading, I love learning. Like, my core values in life are
Hmm.
connection and growth.
Okay.
Right, and so, like, if I can be learning stuff, I'm pretty much gonna be happy, like, so it was, like, a great, like, "Okay, I'm working some, like, some whatever random jobs." I was, like, tutoring actually, I was doing some tutoring and teaching,
Hmm.
but I was like, "Okay, this is getting back in the swing of what I really love the most," and it was
Right.
fantastic,
Okay.
and when I graduated, there was a job opening at Planned Parenthood here in Savannah to be the health educator who teaches, like, who was in charge of getting a group of teens together to be peer educators like I was when I was a teenager. And
Oh
I was
my
like, oh,
goodness.
excuse me,
Yes.
excuse me,
Yes.
coming
Yes.
through. Right.
Hmm. 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 You're like, I got this. Hang on.
So I got that job.
Hmm.
And it was amazing. It was such a good, like, full circle. Here I am back, and now I'm on this end of things. I get to create this experience for other little, like, baby sex educators like I was. Like, ah,
All right.
very
So you're
exciting.
doing that. And then how
But
did your
at the same time, but it was
oh, you started already.
I was
Cool.
like, "Okay, I can do, like, I can have my baby private practice, right, of, like,
Mhm.
just a beginning sex coach, like, okay, trying things out, learning new things," and, but it was great because I think because I am such a talker and I
Mhm.
talk to so many people, I am a big extrovert, I go to events, I love that sort of thing, and so I started getting clients pretty quickly because I was
Okay.
really vocal about, like, this is what I'm doing and I'm very excited about it and I'd love to, let's have a session. Let's talk about what a session would be like. And so
Right.
I was able to get off the ground pretty fast. Not like not like I had a big thriving robust private practice immediately. That's not real life.
Right. Right. Now,
Don't believe it.
right. Let's talk about just for a minute, like you're doing this as a mom, like with 2 kids. What were the logistics behind that? Like, did you have to hire help? Did you have a support system? What was that like?
Yeah, thank goodness I did have a support system. I moved to Savannah to be closer to my mom, actually. My dad had passed away while I was in
Oh,
Mexico, and it
I'm
was one of the
sorry.
things that made me sort of like, thank you. It was
Mhm.
one of the things that made me sort of be like, oh, I would like to be closer to family. I want my kids
Mhm.
to know family a little bit more. Well, my side of the family a little bit more.
Okay.
And so I did have my mom helping a whole lot with kiddos as well.
Oh, good.
And while I was studying, obviously, like most of my work was from home or it was with kids. I was working at my friend's language school and like teaching
Mhm.
part time there as well. And she had kids the same age, so I would bring my kids with me, and it was
Right. No, I just think about like, being able to go to the events or to, you know, go to work at Planned Parenthood. Like these are things that, vulva havers, we got to think about a little bit more than the dudes. It's like, who will be watching the children if I am not the one? You know what I mean?
yes, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was a huge deal. I definitely have been able to do a lot because of like my mom's support as soon as I moved here. Uh,
Excellent.
a huge, huge impactful thing in my life. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Yay.
Yeah.
So you're going out, you have your baby practice. Um, where were you finding clients when you first started? Did you do like Craigslist or running ads for your services or cuz I don't know how much you were involved in like early social media or if that was even a thing yet. Like where are you here?
No, so at this point, right, also keep in mind again, like I'm I'm 40, which is not like the internet started to exist when I was a teenager, I guess, right? Like I had
Mhm.
like an email at one point, right? Like
Yeah, we had like AIM when we
Facebook
were in high
when I
school,
was in
or late
college,
high school. Yeah,
right?
because I'm
But I
43. Yeah.
I didn't get Facebook until, like, way late in the game. I was kinda like, "Oh, what
Okay.
do I want that for?" I didn't get a cell phone till super late, like, I was
All
like,
right.
"I don't know when all that stuff."
You're
So,
like, then
like
I won't be able to talk in person. Why would I want that?
right, I still, like,
Yeah.
remembered my friends' phone numbers, right? Like
Nice. I totally had all the social media. I had like MySpace and and then that went away. And I was like, ew, Facebook, that's just for college kids. No, I don't want that. And now look at it. Jesus Christ. Anyway, but but I feel you. Yeah.
so, like, short version is, no, I was not on social media really, like, I had my, like, personal account on social media. I think I made a professional Instagram and
Mhm.
a professional Facebook page, like, kind of early on.
Mhm.
I didn't really do anything with them because I didn't really know how to use Instagram, and, like,
Mhm. Yeah,
I was kinda like,
lady, I'm still learning how to use Instagram. Somebody told me to tag them as a collaborator, and I was like, "What the fuck is that? I don't even understand what you're saying. I'll just tag you." "No, no, no, tag me as a collaborator." I'm like, "I don't know what that means." He had to fucking walk me through it. Ugh, poor
but that's aw I mean,
bless your heart, Courtney Brame. Shout
that's
out.
that's how we learn. I've learned a lot in the past couple of years, for sure.
Right?
Um, but yeah, this was like 5 this was before COVID that I was already certified, I was already starting my practice. And so at the time I was finding clients through word of mouth, and I started talking to, and again, events, like I was going to poetry events locally. I was going to BDSM events, right? Munches and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I was going to all kinds of different places, and not even like advertising, just like showing up as me, talking about what I do, like
Right? Yeah.
so that helped a lot. I was talking about it a little on Facebook and stuff like that, right? Like
I
so
got some of my best clients, like, just going to, like, different exercise classes, so I understand.
exactly, exactly. And I started really talking to providers a lot because that was one of the reasons I really wanted to get into clinical sexology, was because there's such a gap in the sexuality and the sexology part of the puzzle for providers, right? So when people go to the gynecologist and they're having painful sex and the
Mm-hmm.
gynecologist is like, well, everything's fine.
Yeah. All
They,
your hormone levels are fine, so that
right,
shouldn't be happening. You
right.
don't have
It should be
endometriosis, so
okay.
that shouldn't be happening.
Or
Maybe it's psychological. Maybe you should get on an
right,
antidepressant, which is just going to make it worse.
yeah,
So there's that.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, like I have been down this road, like personally and with other women. So yep. Yeah.
Right. So this is why part of why we do what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not just hormone levels, it's not just physical. It's not like there's so many parts of it. And so much of the time, even when people aren't having problems necessarily, but just like having a better life, having better
Yeah.
relationships,
They
there's
just want more.
there's not that peace. There's not
Yeah.
that they don't know where to go. They don't know how to get that.
Right.
And
And it's kind of like doctors with nutrition. Like they don't get the training. Like your regular medical doctor doesn't get the nutrition training. Your run of the mill, not a sex therapist, but your run of the mill therapist, psychologist, social worker, what have you, is not getting an in-depth education on these things. Like it's
totally,
just not a thing unless they're seeking it out as like a certificate or, special CEUs after they do their main gig training. They're not getting it. And so they're uncomfortable as fuck talking about it. And that is,
they don't have tools in their tool belt most
it's
of the
really
time.
dangerous. It's
Don't
not
have all the info,
helpful.
and they're often uncomfortable, right? They haven't been through
Yeah.
a SAR, right? The what I was talking about
Right.
earlier, the sexual attitude reassessment. Like, even just that alone, if we could get more medical
Hmm.
providers and
Will you
therapists.
talk about that? Because I know even when I was about to do one, like I had to say it to my husband and like explain what it was like 6 times. So go ahead. Could you like expand on that for the listeners real quick? Because I have not actually talked about these yet.
Oh, cool. That's so great. Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of SAR. I've helped Dr. Selena Chris and Dr. Agata do some, like, I've done the small group stuff for SARS before. I've co
Hmm.
facilitated some of that and obviously been through my own. And they're so fascinating and fun. And I wish more people would do them just in general because it's such a great experience. Because the idea of it is literally to check in with your own attitudes and beliefs around sex
Right.
and to discover a little of your boundaries and to push your boundaries a little bit and
Hmm.
to just explore your comfort levels and increase your exposure to what's out there, right? Like,
Right.
because if you're a provider specifically, I mean, again, I think everybody could do a SAR and like, cool, awesome. But if you're
Right.
any type of provider who is expected to talk about sex in any capacity, this is an awesome thing to do because what happens? Like, you're dealing with the general public. What do you know about sex besides like hormone levels or whatever little piece of the puzzle you learned about?
Hmm.
You know about your own stuff
Right.
and what you're comfortable with and what
Hmm.
your partner or partners have done. And that's about it, right? And so
Right.
there's so much stuff that other people are bringing to the table that you might be uncomfortable with. What happens if you're a doctor and, you know, someone is talking to you about, like, what if they want to talk about like anal play and like being safe
Hmm.
and anal sex and you're like super uncomfortable with that?
Right.
Ooh,
Yeah.
right? What if
Or
your
you judge. You
your
judge
therapist,
just by your reaction?
right, your client is
Hmm.
talking to you about BDSM in their world because that's a big part of their life,
Hmm.
and you're like,
Like,
frozen up,
whoa.
don't know what to say, or you think
Hmm.
it's abuse
Hmm.
because you don't understand it. Ooh,
Right.
yikes, right? And
Hmm.
so the idea of SAR is to expand your horizons about what people do sexually
Hmm.
and how you think and feel about it and kind of see where you might need to draw more boundaries professionally, right? As sexologists, it's
Hmm.
important for us to take a SAR and know where our boundaries are, right? Like, we're not expected to be 100% comfortable with everything in the world sexually either. Like, we're allowed
Right.
to have boundaries, not
Hmm.
just for ourselves. Obviously, we all have boundaries in terms of what we're interested in, what we like sexually, what we're doing sexually. We have those boundaries. But on top of that, sometimes we have some boundaries about like who we don't work with or what topics we don't go into, what
Yeah,
things we're
because
not
there just
sexualized.
because you're doing this work doesn't mean that you can't have some general rules for what you will and will not do. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to completely open up to every single person who wants to work with you.
Right.
If you get a bad vibe from somebody and you're like not going to be able to give yourself to that work, then you have the opportunity to say no. That's part of the healthy boundaries, right? You have to be able to display them as well as teach them, right?
Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so just one more thing about the sexual attitude reassessment. I've only been to one online. I'm really hoping I can go to one in person. I know that Shah is doing an in-person one in October with
Cool.
their conference in Denver. I don't know if I'll be able to make that because I'm in Maryland and I still have kiddos, that aren't used to being away from me. More of that vulva owners got to think about that shit. But yeah, I don't know. Like, did you get to do one in person?
I did because
Oh,
again, I did my training before COVID, so it had to be
gotcha. Right.
close.
So that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Nice.
I've co-facilitated online ones. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I've done small group facilitation, and I think that they're still really high quality. Actually, I
Oh
think that
yeah. Oh
they
yeah. No, I
still.
definitely had my brain challenged by
Mhm,
the one that I attended, and basically what you're doing is or at least the one that I was at, you're bombarded, kind of like they try to throw at you all of these different scenarios and kinks and ideas and, fantasies and
mhm,
like proclivities, what have you, that might make you uncomfortable. They want you to feel uncomfortable so that you can then say, why do I feel uncomfortable?
mhm, mhm.
And then do I
How
need to
can I
feel
react to this?
uncomfortable? Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah. Because
mhm.
you want to be ready. Like you said, you want to be ready when someone comes to you with that same kink, that same proclivity, that same interest. And you want to be able to be curious and you want to be able to be loving and supportive, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. I'm very much on board with you. All providers should go to a SAR. I don't care what you do. If you're working with people in a health or a mental health capacity, you should have some of this exposure. I really do feel like it's necessary. Maybe
Uh,
not Dennis, but you know what I'm saying?
I don't know, wouldn't hurt, wouldn't hurt.
Maybe,
If
maybe.
there's a lot of mouth stuff that happens.
There sure is. I mean, if you're having fun, there sure is.
Um,
All right.
yeah.
So pleasure wise wellness. When was that born?
So I actually just got my LLC as Pleasure-Wise Wellness in
Woo!
like November, December last year. Before that,
Oh,
I was
damn.
working like just with my name because
Okay.
I decided I didn't want to commit to a business name. I was like
All right.
Julia Satterlee for now
Mm-hmm.
because
Julia M. Satterlee.
I
Yeah.
need a.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, the M Satterlee is because I have to distinguish between my business Facebook, which is Julia Satterlee, and my personal Facebook,
Shut
which
up.
and so that is
That's why.
my middle name starts with an M, but that was why I put it
Damn.
in there to my profile because I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get so confused. I can't do this."
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. All right. So, pleasure wise, wellness. What is going on right now? What are you up to? What are you creating? What's happening?
I'm so glad you asked. So I wanted that name because I feel like so much of my work is about this kind of empowered pleasure, but heavy, heavy, heavy on the compassion and the emotional component. So much of
Mm-hmm.
what I work with and so much of why I'm here, right?
Mm,
How I got here in the before even my little baby sex educator days was
mm-hmm.
because I also felt that like sexual shame, right?
Mm,
I got those messages just like we all do about like your body, what you like, who you are, being bad, wrong, sex is bad, wrong, blah.
mm-hmm.
It's these perfect ideal
Right.
circumstances
Don't
and
get an STI. Don't do it unless you're in love. never ever give your flower away or
Right.
something. Yeah. Mhm.
Your pocketbook, your
That's right. That's right.
whatever you think.
Sex can only lead to STDs and babies. Don't you know that?
But babies are great
Right.
later.
But you can't have babies yet. So no sex. No. Yes. It's like the just say no of sex, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so we all grew up with some level of that messaging because if you live in this culture, we
Mhm.
have some of that messaging to some
And it's
extent.
coming back. It's coming back hardcore with the mega Christian regime that is existing in our society. So it's kind of fucking scary. Yeah.
Right. And so pleasure wise wellness is this, the idea of why I wanted that names because I really do see things as very holistic, right? And looking at going back to those circles of sexuality, like all these pieces of the puzzle and all of this combining of where we are mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, right? Like Dr.
Mhm.
Patty Britton came up with the MEBS model, incorporating all the different mental, emotional, body and body image behaviors and energy and spirit, right? Spirit either being religious beliefs, absolutely, or spiritual beliefs, but also just who we are at our core.
No, I love that she incorporated that. I really do. I think that a lot of people, even in sexology, like to poo poo the woo woo. But I do think that there is woo woo involved in good fucking sex and relationships. I'm sorry. I love that one story that she has about the guy who couldn't see himself as a sexual being and like she went out and told him to go in the woods and like
Mm,
reconnect to nature and then he was like got a I got an erection. Like it happened and she's like cool. You reconnected with nature and you found your way, man.
yeah.
Amazing. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so much that is about our energy and just about who we are and like that is sex is all energy. Like
Yeah.
it's energy exchange in whatever way and that connection piece with yourself first in order to connect with others
Mhm.
is
It's
key.
very important, right? It's crucial to what it's very much what you put out is what you get back kind of thing. And if you're constantly in your head or if you're constantly worrying that you about your like performance as it were, then that's what it's going to be. It's going to be performative. It is not going to be this, like you said, this connection, this energy exchange.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Ugh. All right.
So
So
that's
pleasure
where this
wise,
came
yes.
from. Currently I'm doing one-on-one coaching
Hmm.
with couples as well as individuals. I work with men, women, all genders, and I work with couples. I love, love, love working with couples. I love helping people do this dance essentially to
Hmm.
find what's going to flow for them.
Hmm.
All kinds of
Okay.
juicy stuff there. I am taking new clients right now.
Okay.
And I also I started offering ask a sexologist consultations because sometimes I find that people just have like sex related questions that
Hmm.
really deserve better than a Google search
Okay.
because we know what all kinds of info is out there. Like yes,
Right.
the World Wide Web, and some of that info is trash.
Right.
And and lots of times we just need a little bit more personalized and direct conversation, right? Like I
Okay.
have people anyway, so that's one way that folks can reach out to me as well. In those consults, it is, one-on-one, you're guaranteed accurate information and also resources and tools for next steps, coming up
Hmm.
with, something you can do to move forward, or a place to continue to get more resources and information. Um,
Okay.
so those are fun calls. I love getting those calls. And then my really exciting stuff right now is I have July 1st, I have a master class that is going to be an introduction. That's a free master class that is going to get people started with the info that they need. And that if they want to continue along that route, I've got a course, my first
Uh-oh.
digital course that is coming out July 15th is the last day to sign up for that. So
Okay. And we're in 2024, just in case you're
2024.
listening to this way in the future. Hopefully, this is the first of many courses that Julia is going to offer. So she'll still be running them whenever you hear this episode.
You know what? I'm so outrageous. This is actually the first of like four other courses that I have
Okay.
started on with various people and various ideas. I
Nice.
decided to create this course because I was working on a couples course on
Mm-hmm.
communication, on sexual communication. That's one of my big passions,
Okay.
right? My formula, education plus communication, better sex lives, right?
Right.
From 17-year-old Julia. But
Of course.
so I was working on this course on couples communication and I was like, hold the phone. Wait a minute. Like, I'm missing this crucial piece that not everybody needs beforehand, but that a lot of my clients do need before they can get to this clear communication piece.
Mm-hmm.
They got to do some getting right with themselves in terms of
Mm.
what they like, what
Okay.
they want, right?
Mm.
We'll have
Yeah.
the couples and one person, sometimes both people will be like, well, I don't really know exactly what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They keep asking me what I want. I don't know. I just freeze up. I don't know. Right. So, like,
Right.
that is so much of what I see. People either don't have the vocabulary to talk about what they want, right? Like, they're like, I kind of know what I like, but like, are there words for that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I describe that? And so they don't know how to express it, or
Mm-hmm.
they really just haven't taken the time yet to get into their body and really see what feels good for them and what they like. And sometimes that's because of like an added layer of shame. So sometimes people do know just fine what they want and even how they could talk about it, but it feels too scary to
Right.
actually talk about it. We got to do a little bit more work with ourselves first and getting comfortable and happy with ourselves and what we
Mm-hmm.
like before we're ready to like share that with
Share
anyone
it.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That was the idea behind this course. I wanted people to have a chance to focus just on themselves and their own
Mm.
pleasure, what it means to own your pleasure, to
Mm-hmm.
own your desire, right? To find your own kind of delightful deviance. That's my like,
Mm-hmm. I
oh,
like that. Yeah.
because that's what it is, right? Like we're all different. This idea that we're supposed to be this way, we're supposed to like these things, we're supposed to get aroused by X,
Should,
Y, Z,
right?
right? All the
Should
shitting on
not,
ourselves.
right? Should
Exactly,
not. Nobody does that. Da da da.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's so
Yeah.
gross, or
Mm-hmm.
that's so boring even, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
shame
Yeah.
everything. So
Right.
this
Yeah. Like you're shamed if you're a hoe and you're shamed if you're a librarian. Like you can't
yeah.
find a way, right? Like you're too fucking vanilla. No, you're too fucking dark chocolate. You know what I mean? Like it's all
Yes.
over the damn place. Ugh. Just shame it all, right? So we gotta get rid of all that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the idea behind this course. I was like, wait, before my couples course, I gotta launch this because
Yeah.
some folks are gonna be like not here yet, and I wanna help get them there. Oh.
Yay! All right. Well, then, so where should people look for you? Can they follow you? What website can they go to? What do you got?
Yes, thank you for asking.
Mhm.
I would love for people, especially to hook up with me on email. Get me in your inbox, please, because you and I know, Jenny, that social media loves to censor us. And so
Mhm.
I would love for people to follow me on social media. I'm at pleasure.wise on Instagram.
Mhm.
Please do follow me. However, know that we can always get shut down at any time. We can't post everything we'd like to there, or we can't share all the info there. But yeah,
Yep.
follow me there. But please get on my email list. I will drop that link to you, Jenny. Um,
Okay.
they can also go to tinyurl.com/pleasurewise
Mhm.
and find my email address, my email sign up there because I
Okay.
do try to send out really fun emails. I try not to be like just some spammer in your inbox. I share
Right.
memes and jokes and, real info and strategy and all kinds of different stuff related to better sex, better intimacy in our lives. I have in the mood Monday emails, random poetry and inspiration and memes. I've got
Mhm.
fling Fridays for getting our info and strategy on. So
Right.
Please.
I know on social media you do the Just the Tip Tuesday.
I do love Just the Tip Tuesday. I like to have fun with things, right? Like this
Mhm.
is so much of what's missing from people's lives is play
Yeah.
and joy and
And fun.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Whoosh. Well, Julia, I cannot thank you enough. This has been so fun. I hope you come back and back and back because this
Thank
is
you so
so
much for
fun.
having me. It was a blast talking to you.
Yay! And I want to thank all of you for listening. I hope you find Julia and get to get yourself involved in some of the cool shit that she's putting out there. It'll be life changing. It'll be mind blowing. It'll be so fun. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of Storytime with the Intimacy Ally, where we say fuck no to the status quo. Bye, my lovelies.
Thank you for tuning in to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. We hope you learned a bit more about putting the fire back in your romantic relationships, exploring communication and emotional readiness in all relationships, and how to expand your definition of intimacy so you can reach your relationship goals. Go to theintimacyally.com to subscribe and never miss an episode. Follow the links in the show notes to social media and events. Till next time, keep on learning, growing, and thinking. Storytime with the Intimacy Ally podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as health or mental health advice.